Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Monday, and all of our guests today, including Elliotte Friedman, brought to you by our friends at Basant Motors. It's May Days at Basant, and they want to make sure you love your ride. Check them out at Basant Motors, BASANTmotors.com, and find a ride you'll love. We're just trying to get a hold of Elliotte Friedman. Needless to say, a very busy man these days. All the work he does with
long hours
with Hockey Night in Canada. By the way, the player you were thinking of, Ridge Meadows Hockey, playing with Colorado, Brad Hunt. Although I believe he's with the Hershey Bears now.
But when he left Vancouver, he went to Colorado.
Yeah, and but now with Hershey. There's
another
mixed messages on the interweb, but as far as we can tell, with the Hershey Bears. All right, how are we doing with Elliotte? I'm waiting on it. No luck so far. Okay, one thing we didn't mention as we wait on Elliotte, needless to say, like I say, a busy man. Max Domi didn't get suspended. Fined $5,000 today by the National Hockey League for boarding Alexander Barkov at the end of Game 4 between the Leafs and Panthers. He got a 5-minute major, and I was surprised this wasn't a bigger deal. Not much was made of this. And during the broadcast and even afterwards, I could just imagine what the response would have been had it been in some way the other way around with a Leaf star. And I know that Mitch Marner took an elbow to the head.
Kulikov.
From Kulikov earlier. There was no call on that play. That doesn't excuse what happened here. This could have been just so dangerous, and that's against a star player. And like I say,
hit from behind.
There wasn't much, and you can be anti-Toronto all you want, but I was just shocked there wasn't anything said about this. We got him? Okay. Elliotte Friedman joins us now from Hockey Night in Canada, 32 Thoughts podcast. Elliotte, thanks so much for doing this, sir. How are you? We got him? Can you hear us?
Oh, you know what? Sorry, I just got a note that my internet connection is unstable, like the rest of me. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, we get those all the time.
Yeah, believe me.
By the way, it seems like you're sporting a different haircut these days, Elliotte. Looking good.
I just have no product. I just have no product in it right now.
Gel.
Looking good, as always.
Paste. I use paste.
No.
I'm a gel guy. What hair I have, I use gel on it.
Dippity-doo.
Hey, Vegas at Edmonton tonight. Does it matter how Vegas got its winning goal Saturday to the Oilers? That was so bizarre.
You know, I honestly believe, Don, that in the playoffs, I remember the first playoffs I covered for Hockey Night in Canada was 03-04, and Tortorella was coaching in Tampa. And he said that if you're a good team, momentum shouldn't carry over from game to game. Whether the momentum is for you or it's against you, then the next games, it's not total goals, it's first to four, and whatever happens in the last game, if you're a good team, you should be able to overcome it. And I always believe that. I think Edmonton's a good team. They kind of coughed up a hairball. They were up 2-0, and they didn't stomp on them or didn't put them away. And Vegas, to their credit, came back and won it. But if you're a good team, and the Oilers are, you should shrug that off and learn your lessons and say, we weren't expecting to sweep Vegas anyway, so let's start all over again tonight.
See, I think pro athletes are tougher mentally than I would be, because I'd be thinking about that for a year. I'd be in a shambles, and the series would be lost. What's the word on Skinner's performance in Game 3? 20 saves, and what happens going forward with the Edmonton goaltending?
Well, Pickard, obviously he's not ready tonight. It might still take a few days. They have to be prepared. Skinner has to win games for them. I thought he battled in Game 3, but he was leaky. Like at least one of them went through him. After hearing what he had to say about the winner, I understood what he was trying to do. I think he had a good process there. And to be honest, if Draisaitl doesn't get unlucky, that puck goes right through the crease and we're in overtime. So I didn't have as big a problem with Skinner on that goal. I understood his process, but another one went through him. And, he battled, but he's got to win. Like at this time of the year, like the other thing too is like honestly, Donnie, when it came to Pickard, was Pickard Patrick Waugh or prime Dominic Hasek? No, he wasn't. But he was one goal better than the other guy, and that's all you have to be, and that's all Skinner needs to be. Doesn't have to be all world Dominic Hasek, but he has to be one goal better than the other guy, and he's got to win games for them. He hasn't done it yet. He's 0-3. He's got to win games for them.
Elliotte, no shortage of teams looking for head coaches, including Vancouver. What are you hearing on the Vancouver job? Hearing Manny Malhotra's name quite a bit, Elliotte, out here. But what are you hearing?
Well, Rick, I know you've been working hard out there. I believe they did a whole bunch of interviews last week. Malhotra's name obviously is there. Marco Sturm's name got out, and I think that's pretty legitimate. I believe that this week the Canucks are going to try to drop to a short list of 3 or 4 candidates. I would think that Sturm would be on that list. I would think that Malhotra would be on that list, and then probably 1 or 2 more. So, but that's what I understand the Canucks are in the process of doing. They did their larger group last week, and they're going to narrow it down to 3 or 4 this week and prepare to do those interviews.
Rick Tocchet, where do you see Elliotte? Where do you see him ending up?
I think that's I don't have a great feel for that right now, Rick. Like I'll tell you, I think he was on Anaheim's radar, but I don't think that really went far. I think Quenneville was always their number 1 guy. If their background check worked, it was going to be Quenneville. Seattle, I think, was very interested. I'm just not convinced that that's where Tocchet wants to go. I mean, there have been a lot of reports about Boston, but if Tocchet turned down 4-ish from the Canucks, that's not where the Bruins go, right? I don't know that I see the Bruins offering more than the Canucks did. So you'd have to convince me that that makes sense. And the Philly one is interesting. Like I've always believed that he was very high on their radar, but over the last few days, there's been some kind of conflicting information on that maybe that's not necessarily true. And I think at this time of year, you have to be really careful because there's always things flying around that are different. And it's hard to know what's fact and what's fiction. But the people who believe that there's a chance that Tocchet ends up on television next year in TNT, they seem pretty confident right now. We'll see. I always thought that that Philly was the most likely landing spot for him when this was all over. But in the last few days, I've had some people push back on that.
So many coaches. Are there enough quality coaches out there, Elliotte? Because I got people telling me there's so many teams, but not enough quality candidates out there.
Well, I think, Rick, the biggest thing is that there's always a question is when do you take a flyer on somebody that doesn't have a lot of experience?
Right.
I think there's a lot of coaches out there who want, like, people have told me, like, Peter Laviolette, he wants to prove that last year was not about him. Gerard Gallant wants to prove that what happened with the Rangers was not about him. People like DJ Smith and Greg Cronin, those are people who are interested in showing that they learned a lot from their first stops. I hear a lot of, Todd Nelson, Jeff Blashill, Jeff Halpern hasn't had a chance yet, but I think it's only a matter of time until he does. So I think it comes down to, Rick, when are you willing to take a chance on someone new?
Yeah.
I will say that there's one guy out there, and he does have some Northwest history, that a few guys have told me they think will have a great chance at one of these jobs is Mitch Love.
Yeah.
That Mitch Love, who's still coaching in the playoffs right now with the Capitals, that he has a strong chance to end up somewhere. And so he is a guy who I think in this cycle, if he wants to, he will have a chance at one of these jobs.
Wow. Elliotte, backtracking a little bit here, and we discussed earlier on the show that the Vancouver Canucks hiring another AHL coach won't go over well in this market because there's an AHL coach in Abbotsford doing very well in Manny Malhotra. What can you tell us? What do the Canucks like about Marco Sturm, who's been with the Ontario Reign?
Marco Sturm is, well, first of all, I generally like the one thing is I don't like hard and fast black and white rules,
Mm.
Don, but generally I do believe that if you have someone like Malhotra, as long as he wants to coach in the NHL someday, you should probably prioritize that, right? But wait, let's let the process play out and see where this all goes. Marco Sturm is a pretty ambitious guy. He's been sending signals for a couple years now that he would really like to be a head coach in the NHL. He's got some international experience with Germany at the Olympics. I think he's also on Boston's radar potentially because they know him. He played for them. I've heard good things about like Sturm has been an NHL assistant before, but I think he really wanted to run a bench to show that he could do it. I would say this, Donnie, he's a very ambitious guy. He would be a guy like there's all these questions about what does Vancouver want and what do you want from someone coming in here? He would want the Vancouver job, from what I know about Sturm. He would look at this as, yes, I want to be in the NHL. Yes, I will gladly be the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, and I will prove that I can be the kind of coach that they need. So, like, that's what I think about when I think about him. I think he's ambitious. I think he's determined. I think he wants an NHL job, and I think he is eager to prove that he can be a coach at the next level. And the other thing too is like I think he's the kind of guy, Donnie. Like I know in Vancouver right now they're debating how do people rank Vancouver as a job. I think he would look at it as if I got that job, I would be ecstatic to have that job.
And one more, Elliotte. Austin Matthews, 2 goals in 10 playoff games. I think he had 1 goal last year in the postseason. Is this about health? Is it about a commitment to defense or something else, or maybe a combination of all things?
Well, look, I think he's competing hard. There's no question about that to me. A commitment to defense, yeah, you got to play defense, but you got to score too. So I don't really run that one away. Look, he's taken 2 practices off in the last week. There's something there.
Right.
But I mean, you guys know how it is, right? I mean, when you're the captain, when you're the highest paid player, the focus, the attention is on you. And, you just have to deal with that. That's life in the big city. And, they get shut out and they have 2 days off until the next game. We've got a lot of airtime to fill and a lot of bandwidth to use. So he becomes the focal point. But it's clear to me he's not 100%. I would say that.
We rarely talk about the Canucks' highest paid player on this show. Just so you know, Elliotte. Thanks for this, my friend.
All right, guys. Have yourselves a great week.
And by the way, in 2 weeks, go back with the gel. Yeah, I miss it.
Okay.
Now that I'm
no worries.
Now that I've seen you for the last
I was taking a nap, so I didn't have time to put it in.
Awesome, Elliotte. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, take care, guys.